Hey guys, we are back. It's been a long time. We took the summer off and had a hard time getting all of us together. Finally, here on Wednesday night. This is the Theotek Podcast. I'm Kevin Purcell, and tonight we have two and maybe four of our team members. We'll see. But Rick Mansfield is here. How you doing, Rick?
Good evening. I'm doing well.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Beardless and doing great. And then there's Is it gone? You didn't know it was gone?
No, I didn't. My wife, she hates it. She must have shaved it off. I don't know.
She must have, yeah. And then there's La Rosa. How you doing, La Rosa Johnson?
Hey, doing well.
We are back, and this is episode 101. And I just realized that the last time that we did a podcast was after WWDC. So I thought it was sort of fitting that the one that we get back in the saddle again is the Apple iPhone and Apple Watch and Apple TV announcement that was yesterday on their new campus over at the Steve Jobs Theater at, what do they call that? The new campus? I can't remember what the name for the whole thing is, but looks like a spaceship that came
spaceship
up
campus.
Yeah, something like that. But and so we thought we would just kind of talk about it. We're somewhat interested in Apple. Some of us would call ourselves maybe enthusiasts. Then there's probably me on the other end of the spectrum. I just use the tools. I'm not really a big Apple enthusiast anymore. But what did you guys think, just generally overall, of the event and how it went? And they kind of kicked it off, giving some honor to Steve Jobs, meeting in the Steve Jobs Theater on their new campus. What'd you guys think about that, LaRosa? What'd you think?
It was nice to see a little tribute to Steve Jobs, especially with this being the 10th anniversary of the iPhone. So, I mean, it seemed definitely fitting for them to have their first event to commemorate this phone and just all the things that he's done for the company. Because, I mean, without him, I mean, Apple wouldn't be where they are today. I mean, he was the one that brought him back from last time.
Yeah, it was interesting that Tim Cook was actually seeming to be visibly, emotional, which I can understand. You know, he's probably one of his closest friends and partners, and worked very, very close side by side with him. What do you think, I'm Rick? Anything stand out to you
About the beginning? You're talking
just
about?
kind of overall? Yeah, the event and the tribute.
Yeah. I thought the event was good. Like I think I'd said, over Slack yesterday, the pace was, I like the pace better. I know you thought it was boring a couple of times, but the WWDC was so rushed because they had so many things that they were doing. I thought that this was, I just liked the slower pace.
Well, it was somewhat boring to me, and part of that is because I'm just not excited about hardly any of the new products.
I'm surprised they spent so much time talking about retail at the beginning.
And that's actually what I was bored with, was the stuff about the store and the new lady that's in charge of that they came on about a year or two ago, and so anyway. But let's go ahead and jump in and talk about the meat of the stuff that is what probably is more interesting. And the first thing they kicked off was something I am interested in, and that is the new 4K Apple TV. Will kick in at $179.99, and that's with, 32 gig version?
I think 32 gigs, yeah.
And then a 64 for $20 more, which to me sounds like a no-brainer. If you're going to get one, you get the 64 for $20 more. That's not that much more. But I think the most interesting thing about it, aside from the fact that it's 4K resolution and HDR, which I don't have an HDR set, but I do have a 4K set, and the stuff that I see that is 4K is noticeably better. And so that's one of the reasons I haven't really used my Apple TV nearly as much on that television set, because I have a Shield TV, an Android Shield TV that is 4K, and then the built-in Netflix is 4K. The built-in Amazon is 4K. It's a smart TV. And so I was kind of glad that they were updating it. And then also all of your movies that you've previously bought that will have a 4K version, you'll get for free. And then coming forward, this is something I think is exciting. All the new movies that you buy will be the same price as their previously just HD quality will be at 4K quality for the
Unless
same
you're
price.
Disney.
Unless you're Disney. Oh, the Disney will be more?
Disney did not sign on for the $20,
They're the only holdout.
Oh, well, stupid Disney.
which means no Star Wars, no Marvel movies, all the good stuff.
At least for right now. But it's interesting, though, because Lorraine Jobs at one point was the largest shareholder in Disney. And of course, she was there yesterday, but I don't think she has her Disney stock anymore. But I thought that, that connection with Apple to be missing like that was very interesting.
Well, there's a rumor that Disney's going to come out with their own streaming service, which, I'm hating this trend, by the way.
Yeah, it's not a rumor.
Every
It's pretty
single
much
network wants $20 or $10 from you. It's going to be
just as much as cable.
It's going to be worse. It's going to be worse than cable. I hate that trend. But anyway, anything else about the new Apple TV you guys were excited about?
From what I understand, I was trying to look at the specs here. From what I understand, it supports two different 4K formats. But I'm having trouble finding that information. Because there's a couple of competing standards, and so for your television sets, but it supports the two most popular ones. There's actually more than two, from what I understand. But so if you had bought a 4K TV back in the first days of when they came out, you might be in trouble. But odds are you have one of these two. But I can't find the exact information.
Okay.
About that.
LaRosa?
Yeah, the specs on that thing. I mean, it's got enough power in that Apple TV to build like a little small Hackintosh. If you could somehow figure that out.
Yeah, it's going to have a powerful processor and plenty of RAM. It's just the storage is the issue, and it doesn't have. You can't upgrade the storage. You can't add to it, which is a little bit frustrating.
So answer me this. Now I don't have a 4K television at this point, so I'm not going to rush out and buy this thing. But is there anything that it offers for the person who has the current or the previous Apple TV? I've got the before this model came out, the newest one. So would there be any reason to upgrade if I didn't have a 4K TV?
I don't think so.
I mean, it's got a faster processor, so I mean, things would be a little snappier, but that's really the only reason you would.
Yeah, if you're a heavy gamer and want to play like the best games, that I don't know how many are there real beefy Apple TV games that take a lot of really tax the system.
I haven't played any. If I'm playing games on the TV, I'm firing up the PlayStation.
Yeah, see, I mean, I've got a Bluetooth controller that I can hook up to my Apple TV, and it is mainly there just because at the time when I got it, I was still writing for Gotta Be Mobile, which, by the way, I'm no longer, and loving it. Then I'm not. Not that I hated Gotta Be Mobile. It was just getting too much. But so I got it mainly just to test it and write about it and that kind of thing. So, I never play games on the thing. But
yeah, I've never played a game. I've loaded a couple, but I don't know. I mean, I've never played it. Like LaRosa said, he's got a PlayStation. I've got an Xbox.
To answer your question, Rick, I would say no. If I didn't have a 4K, I would definitely not be interested in this new Apple TV.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
And it is a little expensive for a streaming box. Like the Roku, which is the most popular, and then the Fire TV, which is the second most popular. You can get either one of those for under $100 easily. The latest Roku that has 4K HDR built in is, I think, right at $100. And it has additional. You can add storage either through USB or an SD card. So
the only thing I'm disappointed with as far as the Apple TV is that the Amazon app is not ready yet.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised about that.
Amazon app and the same crappy controller. I mean, the remote. I don't like using my phone, but the controller is, I don't really like using it much either. And it's so sensitive.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's too sensitive, and like everyone complains, you don't know which side that it's on, and I've often hit the wrong button just because I thought it was turned the other way.
Yeah.
So,
well,
you need a remote that you can feel in your hand and know what it is and what you're doing without having to look at it. Yeah. You've got to look at this one.
And I have tried like a universal remote that I tried to teach the controls on it, and it just doesn't work. Because the skimming through a show just doesn't work on a universal remote very well. But Well, let's not spend too much time because that's not the most exciting thing that was announced. It's probably one of the least. I'm more interested in it just because of my present situation. We'll talk about that later. But are either of you going to get an Apple Watch Series 3?
I will not be. Antoine is talking about it.
Okay. Rick?
Yeah, I'm not yet. If there's all the talk about the the non-invasive glucose monitoring, and I was hoping that was going to be in this one, but the cellular service alone is not yet enough to make me want to rush out and get the new watch. Now, I have had battery problems with my current watch. I've had battery problems the last few days. I've had to just go out before the end of the day. I don't know why, because it hasn't done that before except for the first week that I had it. But at this point, I wouldn't get a new one until I had to.
Yeah, the LTE built in says it will allow you to, say, leave your phone at home maybe while you're out taking a jog or a walk around the block, or even going to work. You could, if you wanted to, you could go all day without it. But I think it's mainly designed for exercise or just quick jaunt somewhere that you don't want to do it. Maybe you leave your phone plugged into the car or something when you run into a quick stop at the grocery store or something. And then you can make phone calls and talk, and you can even hook these things, your AirPods up to it, and listen with it, which is, I accidentally just engaged Siri on my computer, tapping on them. And so it's interesting. Was there anything besides the LTE? I mean, remind me of what else is new besides that?
As far as hardware,
processor probably in that, but what else?
They put an altimeter in there. So yeah, there's a barometric altimeter which allow you to.
I thought it already had that.
No, it did not have that.
Oh, okay.
So that'll allow you to track going up and down stairs. I don't know, but yeah, so it's got the altimeter which will allow you to track your going up and down stairs and things like that, which is nice because before you had to have your phone with you in your pocket in order to track that kind of stuff in the activity app. And I think that's really about it.
Kevin, are you having audio problems?
Yes, I am. So please carry on. If you can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
But yeah, the one thing that I'm really disappointed though about the Apple Watch is, because it's so small and the battery is only so big, you only get an hour of talk time on LTE before you kill the battery.
Oh, is that what they said? I didn't hear that. Wow.
But other than that, I think it's a nice step forward.
Look, Antoine's here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yep. We can hear you. Just
talk about
edit all this stuff out, all the pauses later on.
Okay, sorry about that. I accidentally tapped my AirPods and it sent them. They went nuts. So we finally have Antoine with us. He was out driving and sounded like a Cylon or a cancer patient speaking through one of those voice.
Is that right?
Things. Yeah, that's what you sound like. We couldn't understand at all what you were saying. But Antoine Wright is with us. Antoine, we've already talked about the Apple TV, and now we're covering the Apple Watch. And it sounds like maybe you might be, of all of us, maybe the most interested or excited about the Apple Watch. What do you think?
Well, all right. One comment about the Apple TV, because I don't have a TV, don't want a TV, don't want an Apple TV. But it was crazy impressive that they ran that demo from the Apple TV. That and just the general setup of Steve Jobs Theater for that kind of demo, that was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. For the Apple Watch, yes, cellular Apple Watch, and LaRosa and I have been talking about this for years. Years ago, before Apple entered my life, I had a Samsung Gear S smartwatch and an iPod Mini, cellular iPad Mini, and that was the life. That's a very good life to have. I think for many people, they will realize the same thing I was realizing, is that communication, when it's on your wrist, while it's more personal and it's closer to you, is going to allow for a better experience, a better relationship with technology that you can take off. rather than the slab of glass side of mobile.
Unless you're in a noisy environment, then you're going to have some kind of earpiece.
Well, no, I mean, hey, the earpiece that's a full starter. I mean, I had a Bluetooth earpod in, AirPods and Apple Watch Series 3. I mean, it's about as match made in heaven as it gets.
Aren't you worried about the battery life though? Because they said that you get an hour of LTE talk time, and if you're also plugging in your Bluetooth,
nope.
I mean, you're not going to be able to talk very much.
Nope. And so here's one of the other things that happened for me, at least with that Gear S. I realized I didn't talk on the phone that much. So, I mean, if you're a heavy talker, and I mean, if being on the phone is what you do, the Apple Watch Series 3 is not really pitched for you. It's not a telephone watch. And Apple should have probably did a better job of pointing that out. It's a cellular data watch that just happens to have has the phone ability as a feature. But talking on the phone, in the ranking of things, that should not be number 1, 2, 3, 12, 15. It should fall pretty far down the list. If you're a runner, athlete, and you need that data connectivity, would like that data connectivity. If you do the occasional streaming while you're, doing that running, biking activity, Apple Watch Series 3, hands down, good bet.
I bet I talk less than 15 to 20 minutes a day, if that.
If that's the case, you
on my phone.
That's how I was. That's how I was. I mean, I definitely had days where I talked on the phone a bit more, and I mean, it took me a while to figure out that, a 400 mAh battery and is all that you can get in a wearable on your wrist that has a cellular connection. You can't fit a bigger battery in. You're carrying, a computer on your wrist, so. The talk time thing, it's important, but for those folks that need Series 3 and that want the cellular piece, look at it as the extension of some of the data things that you do with your mobile. Now, I don't think you're going to get more than a couple hours of streaming, so I'd probably cap that at maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, my 5-hour bike ride the other week notwithstanding. But,
I don't think they're thinking of this as... I don't think they're thinking of this as like you're thinking of it. Like, use this as your sole communication device all day long. I know you're, on bleeding edge, on the cutting edge often, and you want to try to push that envelope. But I don't think Apple is even imagining that very many people would do that. I think they're thinking of it for the talking of you can run out to, your short jaunt of whatever that is, exercising or taking a walk or running to the store or whatever. And in the case that you get an emergency phone call, you can take it. Or if you have to make an emergency phone call,
that's where it has to be right now. Apple wants the all-day phone on your wrist. I don't doubt one bit. Samsung wants it. Apple wants it. That only makes sense. Yeah. But the technology doesn't support it now. The battery technology doesn't support it right now, and so an hour of talk time. That's a workout / and really for those people who have accessibility needs, who've been using the Apple Watch, as flashlight. I need to let people know where I am. It's going to be a bonus having the data connection there.
Presently, I own a Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, and I also have the Gear S3 Frontier, and it acts as a Bluetooth monitoring device. So I have to have the phone within Bluetooth range in order for it to work. But it is so convenient when you're typing at the computer and my wife calls, and so I just reach up, spin the dial, and answer it, and keep talking while I'm working. And
that's how the Apple Watch works
down the road.
Yeah, my Apple Watch does that now.
I mean, Apple Watch does that now. That's nothing.
Oh, I know. I'm not saying that this is better than that. I'm just saying I think that the ability to do that is enough until we can get that all-day talk time thing. I think having an LTE built into the watch, I'm just really concerned about the battery life because, when I had an Apple Watch, I was struggling to get through a day with it for when I had heavy usage. Now this thing, look how big it is. I mean, that's a mammoth watch, but I can get, a full 36 hours of battery life. And by the way, it's always on,
That's nice.
So, yeah.
I guess that's nice. I'm not always looking at my watch, so the fact that mine's isn't always on
I am.
helps me out.
I'm constantly looking down. What time
But
is it?
I will say, to the battery life piece, to those who are concerned about battery life, the cellular version of the Series 3 is not what you should get.
Right. No.
The non-cellular one, Apple has done a better processor that's faster, smaller, lighter, blah blah blah. So the non-cellular one should actually get even better battery life than the Series 2. Which is interesting because the Series 2 is effectively discontinued, and it's only a Series 1 and the Series 3. Series 2 and the Series 0, the OG as I call it, is no more.
I think if I was in the market for one, which I'm not, but I would definitely get the non-cellular because I also don't want to add 10 more bucks to my plan, which all the big carriers announced that's what it would cost today. That's not bad, but
it's not. You're only paying. Well, here's a really weird part. So to those who are not listening to our podcast hangout, you will not hear this from anyone else because apparently nobody else has a brain. But
well, thank you.
But what you're paying for is for a little checkbox to be put in a database that says that your phone number gets ported to a second SIM card. That is what $10 a month is paying for. It is a pure profit.
Yeah.
You're paying for a checkbox in a database. So is it worth $5 a month? Some of the European carriers are doing $10 a month. Honestly, the convenience factor, probably so for certain folks. But if you're not one that needs to carry your mobile around, and the just having a GPS, works, and you're fine with local storage, get the regular Series 3, save $50, and plus whatever the cost per year, $120 a year.
Anything else on the watch from you guys? I think we should move on.
I am getting one. Oh, yes. One more thing on the watch. The new ceramic one. So I know a lot of people balk at the fact that there's a $1,200 ceramic Apple Watch. But if you go to an Apple store, try it on. It does not feel like the other Apple Watches. The aluminum one feels like an Apple Watch. The steel one, just the bands make it feel cool. The ceramic one feels really cool, like a cold kind of feeling. It feels like a cold pillow. It's really comfortable and weirdly light. It doesn't really feel like the other Apple Watches. It definitely has a different feel. I'm not that
one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, they're not going to definitely sell a whole lot more. But I mean, personally, I'd love to have the ceramic white one. But that gray one, I'm definitely going to check out as well.
Well, that's a luxury, prestige thing for those who can afford such stuff.
Yeah, lottery winnings coming up next.
All right, iPhone 8. Anything that jumps out at you guys with that? Rick, why don't you jump in here?
Well, nothing jumps out with me. I plan on getting the 10.
Yeah.
But and not to jump ahead too far, because we talked about why did they even do this at all like this? I really think if they could have gone just with the 10, across the board for new phones, they would have. But the supplies are going to be so constrained this first year, they weren't able to do that.
Yeah, I think that's the reason. They know that they can't make enough to supply everyone who. But I think that the people who buy one every year are still going to really want the 10 over the 8 because the 8 is just a slightly different 7.
Let's be honest. It should have been the 7S.
Yeah,
it's the 7S and the 7S Plus.
I'll say, I'll agree with you guys. It's the 7S, but it's a lot of people discount the S series. The S series is where Apple always introduces the new tech. The new model numbers are the marketing pieces, but the S series is where that new tech is. And the 8 I think is going to be the sleeper hit. That's going to be kind of like the small 5C, because the difference in price between the 6S and the 7, which are staying on board, and the 8 is negligible. And so Apple, just from the basis of having the 8 so close in price to the previous models, they may end up selling a boatload of the 8s, which is the friendly, not big people hand size, the 8 Plus.
Yeah.
You know, that one I don't think is going to sell as well. Even though that gold looks amazing, I don't think that one's going to sell as well.
So what's new in it that's different from my iPhone 7 Plus now?
Main thing is the glass back. The camera has been updated, and then
camera, processor, RAM,
and
speed.
the wireless charging. The wireless charging.
Okay, so wireless charging that's a nifty thing. I really love my. I can't show it to you very easily, but
and one thing they didn't talk about either
I've got my S8 charger right here that I can put my phone on and it comes to life and says I'm charging, and it's just so much easier. I know it's a minor little thing, but just plopping that on a charger on my nightstand, it just feels better, especially in the dark when I'm trying to find that hole to plug in the USB-C cable. So that's a nice thing. That's I think a bigger thing than people. It's one of those things you're not going to upgrade just to get that, but once you get it, you're going to say, "Wow, this is nice. I really like it."
But here's the other thing, better than wireless charging though, is the fast charging. So if you have one of the bigger power bricks for your phone or iPad, then you can do fast charging, so you can get like 50% battery in like 10-15 minutes.
Yeah. The fast charging, the True Tone display, which I mean, anybody that's watching this, please, you can wait till one of us gets an 8 or 8 Plus in our hand. Don't care about the video. Go to the store. The screen is freaking going to be freaking amazing.
The screen is amazing. I love it on my iPad Pro.
If you can't find an iPhone 8, just go and look at the Samsung phones because it has the same screen.
Well, now the Samsung colors are better.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Samsung colors are better. I mean, Apple's color gamut is a little more towards the flesh tones. Samsung does more the electric tones, the pop.
Well, that's in software, but it is literally the same screen technology as in the Note 8 and the S8.
Let's see. Oh, all right. So here's
because they're buying them from Samsung.
So for the 8 and the 7 and the 8, or the 7 Plus and the 8 Plus, the 8s are a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker, like a few millimeters thicker, but the cases for the 7 fit the 8. So if you go from one to the other, or from the 6 to what have you, you don't have to buy a new case. And it's a little bit heavier. It's about a half an ounce heavier. So I think that may or may not make it or break for some folks. I hate a heavy phone personally.
I don't think that'll matter really to much of anybody because there's.
Let's see, what do we got? The cameras are the same. The portrait lighting beta is different in the 8, that was a cool demo. The portrait lighting. I mean, portrait mode on the 7 Plus has been amazing. I know I've done some cool stuff with it, and I think you showed a few, Kevin, as well. But that portrait lighting, being able to change the lighting on the fly for portrait shots, whether it's the front or the rear camera, that's pretty cool.
There's an app that does that.
Snapchat. No, just kidding.
But no, I'm talking about like a phone camera app that.
Yeah.
As I was watching it, I was thinking, what's the name of that app that kind of does that already?
There was one. It looked like a Leica camera that came out some time ago.
Yeah, I mean, it works on the 7 Plus. I had it for a while. I don't think I've got it on there now. But anyway.
Here's a few more video pieces. 4K video recording at 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second, or 60 frames per second.
You know, Rick, you're kind of the big 4K video guy. You shoot almost everything in 4K, don't you?
Right. That's correct.
Yeah.
If I'm using my iPhone. So I'm excited, because it's going to be on the 10 too, about being able to do 60 frames per second. But that's going to make some really large file sizes.
Yeah.
Well, it comes bigger. So the only two models are the 64 and the 256. So, and for the 7 Plus now, you can only get 32 and 128.
Yeah, so you better get that large one if you're shooting 4K video.
Yeah.
Let me see. 1080 recording at 30 frames per second, or 60 frames per second. Will support 1080p, 120, or 240 frames per second. Now, that 1080p at 240 for slow-mo will be really cool.
Okay.
That's going to be slow.
Well, let's jump to the 10. because that's probably the most interesting of all of them, and I think it's a beautiful phone.
Wait. Oh, wow. I didn't see this. Hey, the 8 has NFC with reader mode. Oh, snap. So
What does that mean?
that means if your church decides to do mobile giving and wants to deploy iPhones to do it, you don't have to get the little bulky sleeves to put over it because the device does reader mode itself. Oh, snap. That's cool.
Are they opening it up? Are they opening up the
Yes.
API to third party?
No. So there are only a few specific things that you can read. They're limiting what you can read with it, but it is opened up for both payments, rudimentary reader type apps. So that's
Okay.
part of iOS 11.
Then looking at the 10, I think it's a beautiful phone, and I really like it, and I'm glad that I bought it 9 months ago or 7 months ago. I'm kidding about that. I'm being sort of trollish about that. No, I mean it is a nice phone, and I think that they recognize what a lot of us recognize, and that the full screen and that rounded look is a beautiful look, and I really like it, which is why I did get the Samsung and was kind of feeling like my iPhone's looking a little dated. If I was going to buy an iPhone, I definitely would want the 10. I just don't like the little ears.
Ears are awesome.
No,
it's either have the ears. Honestly, it's either have the ears or have a black bar at the top and the bottom of your screen.
Well,
I think you won't even notice it within a few weeks.
Here's the thing: the black bar at the top, I don't notice it on my Samsung phone. It has the black bar at the top, and it doesn't bother me in the least. But I think I am going to be bothered. It makes me think of when Motorola came out with their watch, their Android Wear watch, had a flat tire, and I had that watch, and I had it for months, and every time I looked at it, I did not get used to it. It always annoyed me. I know it's a tiny little thing, but it just feels really non-Apple-ish.
It's tiny. I don't know that it's. I mean, I can see it's rough around the edges.
You're right.
Developers have pulled, but it's what's really rough around the edges, and unfortunately, it's not going to be Apple that I get to blame for this. It's really going to be other software makers, and how their apps end up dealing with that notch, especially when you move landscape.
You're right.
Yeah, we're already having to deal with that.
Apple's user guidelines has this really cool thing they call safe space. For
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Antoine. Can I interrupt you though? LaRosa just said something that I think is big. You said we are already having to deal with that. What do you explain? What you mean? I know what you mean, but explain what you mean.
Well, basically,
what you do.
Well, basically, so we're working on.
We at Olive Tree Bible.
Yes, Olive Tree. So basically, if you use our app, if you tap on it, and you get rid of the toolbar, the verse chooser is at the very top of the screen. And so that little black bar prevents you from using the verse chooser.
Whoa. That means you guys aren't using the header correctly. Because you should be, if you're using, all right, I won't quote the name because I can't remember the name, but the newer header option, it's supposed to push that down.
Well, we're having to do.
There's nubs in that space.
Yeah, well, part of it was because we were using the old SDK, so because the newer SDK didn't come out until yesterday.
And so here's where this is going to bother people.
And then plus also for Olive Tree, it's like we have the swipe up from the bottom to do things, and then so
you got to get rid of that. You got to get rid of that.
Yeah. So we have to change that as well.
That's going to be an issue. See, I'm not excited about them getting rid of the fingerprint ID. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this issue that you're dealing with, there's a lot of app designers and makers who are going to fix this. And you're, within weeks after the thing's shipping, most of the big apps will be just fine.
Well,
and this is the one nice thing too about
that's just it. It's going to be fixed before the device gets out here.
Hang on, guys. The problem is going to be all those apps that people use and love and think are great, but are sort of orphaned. They're gonna, that it's gonna be an issue for some of those, or for the small little indie developer who doesn't have a whole lot of resources and time. He's gonna just kind of have to drop everything and fix.
Well, no,
this.
I mean no, but see, that's just it, Kevin. The fix is, I got to give Apple's human interface guidelines document is absolute gold. I mean, yeah, all right. So that's
if it's followed.
If it's followed, but it's absolute gold. If you follow what they're telling you to do, you have a margin of safe space on portrait and landscape view. You've got an extra tall header area that actually compensates for this here. And then the developer has to write in that basically says, if there's a notch, drop my header down. If there's not a notch, pull it up. It's one line of code.
And the nice thing too about the delayed release of the iPhone 10 is that it actually gives developers a little bit of lead time to
that's true.
Yeah,
you've got a month and a half instead of a week and a half.
If I can go back to something you said, LaRosa, because I was just looking at on my iPhone here, I was looking at the Olive Tree app and also the Accordance app. Both of them use the same idea where you pull in a second pane by swiping from the bottom, but there's a little handle on both of them because like even on my iPhone here, and I'm running the iOS 11 beta, but if I go down to the bezel and swipe up, I get the what it doesn't work well, does it? I'm supposed to get the control center. Let's see, but you're right. That's a problem already, even without the 10 phone. That's a problem here on my 7 Plus.
Yeah, well, there is a line of code that you can do to give your app first swipe priority. So if you do a swipe up from the bottom, your app gets first control of that.
Right now, there's what's his name? It's first control, and then you also have zones. So the ears, for those who may not have seen some of the videos, so each of the rabbit ears at the top, as well as the middle, the sensor in the middle, are all 3 different zones that can be used for swipe actions. The middle one is reserved for notifications. You can't do anything from there. And the 2 ears, one is a control panel, the other one is some kind of status stuff, but that one can be remapped. And then on the bottom, you have the home, and that can also be taken by an app. And then you have each of the corners that you can map gestures to.
I'm glad you know all about this. Most of the people who watch this probably don't care one hill of beans about the programming side of this.
Well,
except
not programming, but it means that the developers that are working on their program have the tools to be able to update this with really a little bit of effort.
Let's move on. What else? Yeah. What else are you jumping out of your pants to go get this for?
I'm not jumping out my pants to get it. It's not
okay, but I don't mean you as in you, Antoine. I mean you as in all 3 of you.
Well, I'm definitely glad to see them moving to an OLED display. I mean, that uses less battery power and gives you some better colors.
Yeah, that's a big plus. I think so.
I'm a fan of the sensors. I love the fact that Apple is caught up to my Nokia N9 and having a sensor-driven, gesture-driven device. Welcome back to 2010. I am very happy.
Yeah, catch-up is a big word for the iPhone 10.
It's okay, which is okay. I mean, they're doing it right. They ate the right things. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that makes the Apple a bad company. I'm just saying, I will say this. Their announcements are always like, wow, we're the greatest thing in the world, and finally now we're going to do it right, when they're really just catching up half the time.
Yeah, I love when they were talking
about we're revolutionary and amazing and new, and it's like, okay, yeah, well, you were revolutionary in 2017 for something that other companies were doing 3 years ago. That's great. So it's kind of funny, I guess is the best word for it. It makes me laugh.
Yeah, I was laughing when they were talking about the Apple Watch and it being able to hook up to some of this new gym equipment. I was like, my watch can already do that.
Yeah, but anything else, Rick, that jumps out at you?
Oh,
no, go ahead, Antoine.
Okay.
Oh yeah, sorry. I mean, and again, I deal with user interface design and user experience design. So things that make people do stuff different stick out. The Siri button on the side, that's interesting. It maps twice. I mean, once is going to be to lock your phone, but the other one, if you double tap on it, you'd be able to call up Siri. If you 5 times tap on it, you get your Face ID lockout. You have to use your PIN code. So that means that there are a few things that you can do.
Do you think the average person will know? I mean, we might know how to do that, but do you think the average person will know how to do that?
I think the average woman would, and hear me out when I say this. So, of the pieces of research, And that's why I said, hear me out. So, other thing that I've been talking to some ladies here in DC and Baltimore about is safety, and how they think about technology differently than guys do. And one of the things that they found, rewarding when Apple talked about being able to triple tap or 5 times tap your power button in order to be able to bring up the SOS 911 as well as lock out your device. Because as part of their living, they live in the fear of somebody taking their stuff. To some journalists I know, they like this feature as well because they clandestine places and people will take your phone. So to be able to quickly lock it, if it's as long as you can get those 5 register fast enough, I think it's a good thing. There's no real other way to pull that off when you start removing buttons. I think the volume buttons really aren't buttons, or they're close to not being buttons anymore. They're kind of doing what they did with the 7 and just making it a piece of haptically controlled glass. So when you start doing that, you have to have ways for users to be able to control some aspects of their device. Now, doing a screenshot is going to be hard. It's volume up plus the big long power button, but everything else, for every other reason, that long power button and the multiple gestures that you can do by tap, double tap, triple tap, quintuple tap should be pretty cool.
I just wish they had left it and put it on the back like other phones.
Oh,
I
God,
hate
no.
where Samsung has it.
No.
I hate where Samsung has it. But I want a button, a physical button. I just want one.
What do you think that the fingerprint sensor will come back once they figure out how to do it underneath the glass, like supposedly they wanted to do?
I think they will.
They figured it out. It's technically hard.
Let's just hope. I don't know. I just would prefer a button. You guys all reacted to back, and I understand. I prefer it on the front, but if you make the design decision, we're not going to have anything on the front except for screen and camera and speakers and stuff up here. Then the next best alternative, in my opinion, is not get rid of it. It's put it on the back.
Well, Apple gave you a different alternative to choose your face.
Yeah, they said use your face. I would have. I mean, if they could have did,
as long as it works, and as long as it's safe and secure, which will if it is great, I'll be happy.
Unlike the demo fail
we'll see.
during the presentation.
No, actually. So okay, hold up. No, not a demo fail. And hear me out. It actually worked the way it's supposed to. And so I was going back and forth on Twitter with someone, and the lady responded back to me. But there's a decent chance. There's a fairly decent chance that one of the reasons why it didn't work is because the makeup he was wearing.
Well, but that's a problem though, because what if you're an actor and
it's a problem for a woman? It's a problem for a woman, and so that's one of the questions that lingers.
Well, you'd assume that then the woman would probably train it while she's wearing her makeup. Then would it not work when she's not wearing her makeup?
No,
I don't know.
It's trained.
Well, then
by
how
the
come the
photos
second
that you
one
put on
worked?
there.
I mean, if that's right, the second one shouldn't have worked either.
Exactly, it shouldn't have worked. So we were pandering about on Twitter. We're all great arguments happen.
Again, this is something we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it works when it finally works.
Yeah, but I think it'll do well.
I thought the camera with the live emojis, that was kind of a cute trick.
Animojis? Animojis are great. Did you guys see the Black Mirror? Oh, so all right. So to our listeners, there's a show called Black Mirror, and there's one about an emoji that got elected as a mayor, and somebody took one of the emojis to the background when they were doing the talk, which was pretty funny. Because that idea of an animated you is only the next step. I mean, it's like it's half Snapchat, half what we do with emojis now. Why not talk to you with a unicorn mouth?
All right. Anything else you guys are wanting to share or comment on or discuss at this point?
For the
I think we kind of hit the highlights for any of the stuff. I think we're kind of I'm sort of wrapping us. We're getting down towards the end.
So just as a reminder, you can pre-order the iPhone 8 on the 15th. That's this Friday. But if you go into the Apple Store app now, you can set up all the presets. So you can go in and you just hit one button on the 15th and it goes through. You can't do any of that yet with the 10th. That's going to be pre-order on the 10th, on the 27th of October. And you can't even
won't get it until Black Friday. Yeah, you're not getting nobody's getting a 10 until Black Friday. I'd say just count it until Thanksgiving, and that's enough time for an 11.1 update to fix a lot of the issues.
Well, I think they said, didn't they originally say November 3rd for?
Yeah, it's November 3rd, but I said Black Friday because
Yeah, I got you.
Everything, all the Apple stuff is shipped on time lately.
The first 74 will get it on November 3rd.
Yeah.
Probably more than that, but not a lot. I mean, it'll be extremely limited in comparison to past, offerings.
I'll mention one more thing, Kev. You asked a few more things. I was talking to some friends who are not techies because they all asked me, Antoine, when are you getting the 10? We expect you to have it tomorrow. And I told them I'm not getting it, but we start walking through the pricing. So it's $9.99 for the 64 gig. It's $12.99 for the 256 gig. And then $11.49, and then it's $200 for Apple Care. So you can. I mean, you're walking out of the store with a $1,500 phone if you do the 256 one, and you get Apple Care. That's not a little bit, And I think for
that's two iPhone 8s.
Literally, I think for believers, we actually really should be fairly careful. If we say we're going to go get the X, okay, fine, get the X. But we need to somehow, before the X gets here, demonstrate a sense of financial wisdom, stewardship with it, while we're saying, hey, we're going to get it because we can get it. Because what that phone, I mean, it's built to look like an expensive phone. It's going to create envy. It's going to create pride, with other folks. And I think, folks just getting a new phone to get a new phone. This is not going from the 6 to the 7 where it looks the same, or even the 6 to the 8 where it dang near looks the same. This is going to a whole new different phone that costs and is significantly better than what Apple had before. It will create a little animosity until it's more available at a lower price point. And we should be mindful of that, in getting this.
I think that's a good word. I think you're right. I'm one who's very, very susceptible to techno lust, and to the point where I have, as someone once said, how many computers do you have? And I say more than I need and fewer than I want. So, and that's I think this is the kind of thing as well. And so, that's probably a good word to kind of.
I remember Antoine and I were talking about it a few weeks ago. And it's like, I probably won't be upgrading because looking at everything that's leaked so far and what I have with my 6S Plus, there's nothing new in this phone that I need or is going to change how I use my phone. So, I mean, my phone that I have now is going to still work just fine for me and do everything that I need and want it to do. So there's really no reason to upgrade. And I think that's what a lot of people do need to think about too.
Yeah. And now that, again, as I said earlier, now that I'm no longer a, working tech journalist, I mean, this is the closest thing to it, this podcast. I don't feel as hungry to do it, because I'm not going to be writing stories about the iPhone 10. So, and also because of that, I don't have that extra cash coming in each month that I was making. And having a student in college and want to get ready to start.
Don't it?
Yeah. In fact, starting in January, we very likely will have 2 in college. So that'll be a big impact. Hey, let's last call. Anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope Apple can keep Face ID data out of the hands of the government.
No, whoa. Okay, all right. So I didn't see your article, but the only way that somebody gets your Face ID data is if they can crack Secure Enclave on your phone.
No, but what I'm talking about is like when they're like FBI and police requests for data, whether or not Apple will comply.
It doesn't matter. Face ID data does not. Face ID, Touch ID data.
It doesn't leave your phone.
The device.
Yeah,
it doesn't leave the device. There's nothing for Apple.
But what about this?
Apple can't give anything.
What about this? Hey, guy, is this your phone? And then they've just put it up to your face and unlock.
All you have to do is nope. I think if you close your eyes, it doesn't unlock. If you skew your facial expressions with the half eye closed, it's not supposed to do so.
But you can be compelled to unlock your phone with physical thing.
With a physical password, yes.
You cannot. No. It's the other way around. If it's a password that unlocks your phone, they can't force you to give them the password.
You
That's
better hit that
physical
button 5
password
times as you hand it over.
That's the thing. Hit your button 5 times if you're worried about something. Now, the question then we have is, well, we're Christians. We're supposed to be good people. Why would we ever be worried about what's on our phone? And the answer to that is, as soon as it becomes illegal to be a Christian, which, maybe that'll happen in this country, I don't know. But it is right now illegal in many countries.
Yeah.
And then, I didn't think that maybe we would necessarily get into this, but we have 2 gentlemen who probably would be the attack of some racist police officer somewhere. Would you guys be concerned about that?
Here's the thing. I'm not concerned about that. As of
I've heard people
today,
say that's why I brought it up.
I know you say it, but I'm not concerned. Apple's security record does not. They've earned enough trust, and nobody's completely trustworthy. But what they're doing protects the user of their devices better than other mobile phone operating systems and companies. To me. And to that end, as a user, I'm comfortable with it. As an American, it's my duty to be on top of, or at least understand as best as possible, the state law and the federal law in regards to those credentials, because unfortunately they do change from state to state, and federal law is a quagmire of fun. And if the device or using a service on the device can be compromised due to this Equifax thing, it probably has already been compromised. But as for the Face ID, I can agree with Apple. As long as I don't have an identical twin somewhere, I should be good. And even if I did, that's 1 in a million versus 1 in 30,000. Because really there are, so that's it's a real thing that folks should think about. And especially if you're a believer who, you're doing some missional work in some interesting places, you should probably think about what those laws are for those other countries, because they don't match the US laws. And Apple respects the laws of the countries in which they sell devices, not the country in which you are using the device.
Yeah, I think if I'm going to one of those countries, I'm getting myself one of these to take with me.
Yeah. Where's my Palm Trio?
All right, well, let's kind of wrap this up, and tonight we're not going to do favorite things because we spent the whole hour on this Apple stuff. And let me just kind of conclude this with a plea. Those of you who are still watching or listening, I just again ask you, we've had some significant things happening weather-wise in our country over the last few weeks. And just be in prayer for those folks, especially my son Michael, who is on his way home tomorrow from Nederland, Texas, right outside of Houston. And when he gets back, if he still doesn't get called on a job that he went on an interview for, he will very likely be heading back to Florida this time, doing Baptist Men disaster relief work. And so be in prayer for all of those people. The kingdom of God is showing itself very well in response to this in many different ways. And so I think we should just be in prayer for those guys.
Yeah, I would include a request for the Accordance main office, which is in the Orlando area. They haven't had power, and so they haven't been open all week. Some of the employees that work in the office have been able to get power and have tried their best to do support and sales and things like that from home or from a coffee shop or wherever. But there's still lots of people in Florida, that don't have power.
Speaking of that, one of the new team members for the Theotek Podcast team is a man named Mark Allison, who will be joining us soon, maybe one of the next podcasts that we do. And he was planning to be here tonight and could not do so because he works with Accordance and he's in Florida, and said that he's in
Georgia, actually, but
he's in Georgia. Okay. And anyway, but because of the storm, he was without power, and so he still doesn't have internet, he said, according to an email about 2 or 3 hours ago. I sent him the invite just in case he happened to get it on before we started tonight, but obviously since he's not here, he he must not have been able to, or even if he did, he probably felt like, hey, I'm not going to do a podcast. I'm still trying to clean up or whatever. But let's be in prayer for those guys. And if you can give, there's a lot of different organizations. As I'm a Southern Baptist, and our Baptist men and women do a great work, and 100% of the money you give through them. If you go to NC, let's see, Baptist, how's it go? Anyway, search for North Carolina Baptist Men or Southern Baptist Men on internet, and you'll find it. 100% will go to disaster relief if you do it that way, because our churches take care of the overhead of it. Samaritan's Purse is another good way to give to a good Christian organization that's trustworthy. Our church voted to send money, a pretty significant sum to Baptist Men and some to Samaritan's Purse, and so make that a priority if you can. And of course, my wife and I tried to do just a little small amount. So I want to challenge all of you who are watching or listening to do the same. And you know what? I'll put links so that if you want to find it, if you're watching this, you can go to Theotek.com and learn how you can give to some of these organizations. So thanks, guys. We really appreciate it. We will be doing the Theotek podcast going forward, probably every other week from now on, not every week. And we just decided that, it maybe isn't something that needs to be done every single week. And our timing, it's been hard to get everybody together. And so, and there's Rick with a fine new member of the team.
Yeah, this is Lucy May.
All right.
And
hey, Lucy.
This is her podcast debut.
Oh, too cool.
Is she getting an iPhone?
No, maybe
Apple
an Apple
Watch.
Watch to go around her paw. So
An Apple Watch. There you go. Well, guys, we're going to sign off. Thanks for watching or listening, and God bless y'all and take care. Good night.
see ya.
Good night.